Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we are doing something a little different, and I am just incredibly excited about it. We are really rolling up our sleeves and getting under the hood of a system that, well, it runs a huge chunk of the global economy.
It really does. And it is great to be back.
Yeah, we are talking about SAP today, specifically the sales and distribution module.
Right, the SD module.
Exactly. But we aren't just going to sit here and talk about how to enter an order or, how to run a standard report. We are going way deeper than that.
Oh, absolutely. This isn't just a surface level chat at all. We're looking at a set of source materials today that are essentially a masterclass for consultants.
A total masterclass.
Yeah, we're looking at the actual logic that makes the system tick. We are looking at what the sources call the invisible engine.
The invisible engine. I really love that phrase. Because I want to start with a feeling that I think anyone who has ever used enterprise software knows intimately.
Oh, I know the feeling you're talking about.
Right. So you are sitting at your desk, and maybe you've got a coffee next to you, and you are filling out a sales order.
Standard Tuesday morning.
Exactly. You put in a customer name and maybe a material number, and then you just hit enter. And then magic.
It completely feels like magic.
It really does. Suddenly, 10 or 15 other fields just populate entirely on their own. The shipping point fills in automatically. The plant appears. The pricing shows up out of nowhere. The tax is calculated. The route is determined.
All in a split second.
Yeah, it feels like the computer's just reading your mind. It's instantaneous. But as we know, and as our sources are very quick to remind us today in software, there is absolutely no such thing as magic.
No magic at all. Only logic.
Only logic.
And that is exactly what we are unpacking today. We are looking at the logic behind all that automation. In SAP terms, we call these determinations.
Determinations, it sounds so definitive, like a judge banging a gavel or something.
In a way, it really is. A determination is simply the system's ability to automatically identify and populate specific data based on rules that we set up beforehand.
It is the brain of the order-to-cash cycle, basically.
That is the perfect way to describe it.
Yeah.
It's the difference between a user having to memorize 500 different shipping routes and the system just knowing the right answer instantly.
I love that. And looking at our source material, there is a quote here that I think it should be tattooed on every consultant's arm, to be honest.
The rule of thumb.
The consultant's rule of thumb. It says, if a user has to manually enter data that could be derived from existing master data, the configuration is incomplete.
That is such a high bar.
It is a remarkably high bar, but it is the standard for excellence in this space.
Think about it, though. If you are building a system and your end users are manually selecting which warehouse to ship from every single time they enter an order.
Or manually typing in the general ledger account.
Exactly. If they are doing that, you haven't really built an automated system. You've just built a digital typewriter.
A very expensive digital typewriter.
A very expensive one. Determinations are all about efficiency and accuracy and speed. They completely remove the human error factor.
Because if the system determines the TAC were, you don't have to worry about a new sales rep guessing the tax rate for a complicated shipment to Brazil.
Right. So our mission today is to turn you, the listener, from a passive user of this system into an expert consultant.
We are going to walk through the logic, the formulas, and my favorite part, the troubleshooting tips for when things inevitably go wrong.
We are going to completely deconstruct this invisible engine.
Precisely. We are going to break this down into the core pillars today. So logistics, then process control, then financials, and then finally some really cool advanced tools.
Let's start with the foundation then, the physical movement of goods. Because at the end of the day, if you can't ship it, you can't sell it.
So true. And the very first big determination in our stack here is plant determination. Now, to the uninitiated, a plant is just a building, right? It's a warehouse or maybe a factory.
In the real world, yes, it is a building. But in SAP, it is so much more than that. The plant is the critical location that dictates pretty much everything that follows in the document.
It dictates the tax determination.
Right. Yes, because where you ship from matters immensely for taxes.
Yeah.
And it also dictates availability checks.
Right. You can't promise a customer a delivery date if you don't actually know which pile of inventory you're looking at.
Exactly. You can't say, oh, yeah, it's in stock without knowing where you're looking. So the question is, how does the system decide?
Let's say I have 5 plants across the country. How does it know which one to pick for one specific order?
It uses a very strict hierarchy, a priority rule. The system searches in a highly specific order, and it completely stops the moment it finds a value.
It's like a waterfall.
It is exactly like a waterfall. It checks the top level, and if it's dry, it falls down to the next level.
Okay, so walk us through the steps of this waterfall. What's at the very top?
The very first place it looks is the Customer Material Info Record.
That is a mouthful. The Customer Material Info Record.
We usually just call it the CMIR.
The CMIR, this sounds like a very specific intersection of data.
It is. It's a record that specifically links one customer to one specific material. So think about it this way. You have a customer, let's call them big box retailer.
Okay, big box retailer.
And generally speaking, you always ship to them from your main warehouse in Chicago.
Makes sense.
But for this one specific product, let's say it's a highly hazardous chemical that your Chicago warehouse just isn't licensed to store.
Oh, okay. Or maybe big box retailer has a local preference for their distribution center B.
Exactly. They need it from elsewhere. The CMIR allows you as the consultant to tell the system, hey, for customer A and material X, always use plant Y.
I see. So it overrides absolutely everything else because it is the most specific preference possible. It's a micro rule.
Exactly. If the system finds a plant listed right there in the CMIR, it stops looking. Game over. Determination complete.
It just doesn't care what the other master data says at that point.
Not at all.
Okay, but what if there is no CMIR? What if it's just a regular order for a regular product and we don't have any special rules set up?
Then the waterfall flows down to step 2, the customer master record.
Specifically the ship-to-party view, right?
The ship to party.
Yeah.
This is your default. You're basically saying, generally speaking, this customer is located in California, so just serve them from our Nevada plant.
That makes total sense. Geography usually dictates the default anyway. If they're in the West, ship from the West.
Right. And for probably 80% of your standard business, this is exactly where the logic stops.
And what if that field is just blank? Like, what if we haven't assigned a default plant to the customer master at all?
Then and only then does the waterfall drop to the final level. It looks at the material master record.
This is a fallback.
It is the ultimate fallback. It's the system saying, well, the customer didn't specify in a CMIR, and the customer master doesn't have a regional preference. So where do we usually keep this item?
This item is usually made in Plant C, so if nobody tells us otherwise, just ship it from Plant C.
Correct. So just to recap that hierarchy, specific preference first, which is the CMIR, then customer default, then material default.
I really like that. It's highly logical, but I imagine this can cause some serious confusion if you don't actually know the order it searches in.
Oh, absolutely it does. And here is a troubleshooting tip straight from the source material that is pure gold for consultants out there.
Hit us with it.
If you are in a situation where the plant isn't showing up on the order, or worse, the wrong plant is showing up, don't just sit there staring at the material master.
Right, because that's at the very bottom of the list.
Exactly. You need to go check the CMIR. And specifically, you need to check the validity dates on the CMIR.
Ah, validity dates.
I have seen seasoned consultants pull their hair out because the record existed, but it expired yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
Or conversely, someone created a CMIR 5 years ago for some special one-off project, and they completely forgot to delete it.
And now it's overriding your brand new distribution strategy.
Yes, the ghosts of configurations past. Always check the top of the waterfall first.
That is a phenomenal tip. Okay, so we know where the goods are coming from. We have the plant. But a plant is a massive place. We need to get a lot more specific. We need a shipping point.
Shipping point? This is the actual physical dock. This is where the picking and the packing and the loading actually begin.
And you cannot create a delivery document in SAP without a shipping point, right?
It is a hard stop. No shipping point means no delivery. Period.
And it's not just about the location, is it? It's about capability.
Precisely. Think about a massive modern distribution center. You might have Dock 1 that has a heavy-duty overhead crane. Dock 2 has a standard forklift ramp. And Dock 3 is just a small parcel counter for FedEx envelopes.
You definitely do not want a semi-truck backing up to the FedEx counter.
It would be a disaster waiting to happen. So the system has to know which dock to direct the goods to.
So there is a specific formula for this, right? It's not just a random guess by the system.
It is a very precise formula. To find the shipping point, the system adds 3 distinct variables together. It looks at the shipping condition, plus the loading group, plus the delivering plant.
Okay, let's unpack those variables one by one. We know the delivering plant comes from the step we literally just discussed. What is the shipping condition?
The shipping condition essentially answers the question, how quickly does the customer need this? It usually comes from the sold-to-party master data.
So is it standard? Is it express? Is it customer pickup?
Exactly. So if it's customer pickup, we might send them to a completely different part of the building than if it's UPS ground.
Makes perfect sense. And then what about the loading group?
That one sounds like it comes from the product itself, and it does. It comes from the material master.
It answers, how do we physically load this thing?
Right. You might have a loading group for crane, if it's a piece of heavy machinery, or a
Hmm.
forklift for standard pallets, or manual for just small, lightweight boxes.
So the system basically acts as a matchmaker. It says, okay, this is an express order, which is our shipping condition for a giant heavy machine, which is our loading group coming from the Chicago plant.
And the result of that math is Dock 4, which happens to be the only dock in Chicago equipped with a crane that is also designated to handle express shipments. That becomes your determined shipping point.
That is so incredibly logical when you break it down like that. It's literally matching the physical constraints of the warehouse to the specific needs of that one order.
It really is. And there's a great consultant insight from the text here. There's a transaction code, OVL2.
OVL2.
Yes, OVL2. This is the table where you actually configure this mapping. You can define a proposed shipping point, which is the default that automatically pops up. But you can also define manual alternatives.
Meaning, if the default dock is currently full or maybe it's under construction, the user can just swap it.
Yes, and this is the key part, they can only swap it to the specific approved alternatives that you have defined in that OVL2 list.
They can't just make one up on the fly.
No, they cannot ship a massive crane item from the tiny parcel counter. Control is absolutely everything in SD.
I love that. It gives the business flexibility, but it keeps the guardrails firmly in place. Okay, moving even deeper into the warehouse, we have the plant, we have the shipping point. Now we need the storage location, the actual specific shelf or bin where the item sits right now.
Right, and this uses a very standard rule in the system called the MLA rule.
MLA, is that an acronym?
It stands for the combination of German words for the fields. But essentially, the MLA rule determines the storage location based on three things: the shipping point, the delivering plant, and the storage condition.
Well, we know the first two. What exactly is the storage condition?
This is an indicator on the material master. It describes the physical environment the goods need to be kept in. Does it need cold storage? Is it hazardous? Is it just a standard shelf item?
So let's use a fun example. If I am shipping a pallet of ice cream, the storage condition is obviously frozen.
Right. The system sees the word frozen. It looks at the Chicago plan. It looks at Dock 4, and it directs the warehouse picker straight to the giant walk-in freezer.
And what happens if you don't have that storage condition configured correctly?
Then your poor picker is going to be wandering around the dry goods aisle looking for ice cream while it melts.
Huh.
Or, even worse, they might be instructed to put highly hazardous chemicals right next to the marshmallows.
High-stakes logistics. Okay, so the goods are picked. Now they actually need to leave the building. We need to determine the route.
Route determination is fascinating to me because it's not just about map directions. It is fundamentally about time. The route calculates the transit time and the transportation lead time.
So this is how the system knows to confidently tell a customer you will get it by Tuesday.
Correct. It mathematically knows that the route from the Chicago dock to the New York customer takes exactly 2 days. If your route determination fails, your delivery dates are literally just wild guesses.
And the formula here is a bit more complex, right?
It is. It's 4 variables this time. It is departure zone plus destination zone plus shipping condition plus transportation group.
Okay, let's break those down. Departure zone makes sense. That's where we are leaving from geographically. Destination zone is where the customer is physically located.
Right. Those are purely geographic. And then transportation group comes from the material itself. It describes the physical nature of the goods purely for transport purposes. Is it on pallets? Is it liquid in tanks? Is it bulk grain?
Because shipping liquid nitrogen in a specialized tanker is very, very different from shipping a truck full of sneakers.
Exactly. You can't just put liquid nitrogen on a standard dry van pallet truck route. The system has to know to select a route that explicitly supports hazardous tankers.
Yeah, there is an advanced insight here in the notes about something called weight groups. What is that all about?
Oh, this is really cool functionality. You can configure the system to check the total combined weight of the entire order. If the order is over, say, 10 tons, the system automatically switches the route to a TL route, truckload.
Oh, wow. And if it's under?
If it's under 10 tons, it selects an LTL route, less than truckload.
That is brilliant. So the customer service rep doesn't have to sit there with a calculator and think, oh, is this order heavy enough for a full dedicated truck?
Yeah.
The system just evaluates the payload and does it.
Automation at its finest.
Yeah.
That is the goal. It optimizes your freight costs in the background without the user having to do any of the math themselves.
Okay, so we have thoroughly covered the physical logistics. We know where it's coming from, where it's going, and exactly how it's getting there. Now let's move to what our outline calls the brain of the system.
The process control determinations.
This sounds a bit more abstract than physical docks and trucks.
It is a bit abstract, but it's absolute vital. The most important one here, and honestly, perhaps the most important determination in the entire SD module, is item category determination.
The notes call this one the director. Why is it the director?
Because the item category tells the specific line item what role it plays in the overall movie. Think about a sales order. You have a list of 10 items. But what does this system actually do with them? Does it build this first item? Does it price the second one? Does it track inventory for the third? Is it a service or is it a physical good? Without an assigned item category, the line item is literally just text on a screen. It has zero behavior.
So the item category gives the item its marching orders.
Exactly. It dictates the entire downstream process for that specific row of data.
So how does the system pick the right role for the item?
Another formula, it is sales document type plus item category group plus item usage plus higher level item category.
That is quite a mouthful. Let's do a scenario walkthrough for that one. Let's start with just a standard order for a standard widget.
Okay, simple enough. So the document type is OR, which is the SAP code for a standard order. The item category group, which comes directly from the material master, is norm EOM, meaning standard item. So in this simple case, the system determines the item category is TAN.
TAN. TAN, the classic standard item.
Right. And TAN means price it, bill it, and deliver it, the full standard package. But let's change just one single variable in that formula. Let's say the usage field is set to free.
Free, zero, like zero cost.
Yes. Maybe it's a promotional sample or a marketing giveaway. If the usage variable is free, the system automatically changes the item category determination from TAN to TAN.
TANN, and TAN behaves differently than TAN.
Completely differently. TAN means yes, deliver it, and yes, track the inventory because it's physically leaving the warehouse. But do not charge the customer under any circumstances. The price is zero.
So it's the exact same material and the exact same customer, but the context, the usage, changed the entire systemic behavior of the item.
Exactly. And then you mentioned that fourth variable earlier, the higher level item category. This is primarily used for bills material or BOMs.
Give us an example of how a BOM works in this context.
Think of a standard laptop bundle. The laptop is the main item you are selling, but the mouse is included inside the box as a separate component. The laptop is the higher level item. The mouse is a sub-item.
Okay.
The mouse's determination looks up at what the laptop is doing to decide how it should behave.
It's a parent-child relationship.
Precisely. If the parent laptop is being sold normally, the child mouse is being sold. If the parent laptop is being given away as a free sample, well, the mouse needs to be free too. The sub-item checks the main item's category to determine its own fate.
Now, what happens if this logic breaks? The notes mention something called the dreaded error.
Yes. Item category not defined. Every consultant has seen this. This usually happens when the business creates a brand new material type or a new document type, and someone forgets to connect all the dots in transaction VOV4.
VOV4. We are really dropping the T-codes today.
We have to. It's a classic missing assignment error. The system basically throws its hands up and says, I don't know what to do with this combination of variables, and it completely refuses to add the item to the order.
It just stops you dead in your tracks. Okay, next up in the brain section is schedule line category determination. The notes call this one the connector. What exactly is it connecting?
It connects sales, which is SD, to inventory management, which is MM, and production planning, which is PP. This is where the rubber really meets the road for physical stock.
So the item category says, hey, sell this thing, and the schedule line category says, all right, here is exactly how we handle the stock movement.
Yes. It directly controls the movement type, like movement 601 for a standard goods issue. And it also controls the availability check logic. The formula here is a bit simpler, though. It is just item category plus MRP type.
MRP type. That comes from the material master again, right?
Right. If the MRP type is PD, meaning it's relevant for planning, the system assigns a schedule line that actually triggers a requirement in the back-end planning system. It effectively tells the factory, hey, we just sold one of these, put it on the production schedule immediately.
And what if it's a return order?
Well, then the MRP type might be different, or the item category is different, like a return item category. And the schedule line category changes to something like CN, which means no planning.
Because if a customer is returning a broken toaster, you obviously don't want the factory to plan to build another toaster based on that return.
Exactly. Yet it prevents the production planning system from getting totally confused by reverse logistics.
Yeah.
It isolates the inbound inventory movement from the outbound production planning.
That is so smart. You don't want to accidentally trigger an entire production run based on junk coming back into the warehouse.
Exactly.
All right, let's pivot and talk about money, the wallet section of our outline.
Yeah.
Financial and pricing determinations. This is where things get really serious because if this part is wrong, the invoice is wrong, and customers get very angry.
Or the company loses a lot of money. Both are very bad outcomes. The first big one to tackle here is pricing procedure determination.
Pricing procedure. That sounds like a list of some sort.
It is. It's a schema. Think of it as a master bucket list of all possible price components that could apply. Does this order get a base price? Does it get a material discount, a special customer discount, freight surcharges, state tax?
There are so many elements.
Right. The pricing procedure defines which of those specific buckets are even available to be filled for a particular transaction.
So how does the system know which master list to pick? Because you wouldn't use the same list for everyone.
No, you wouldn't. It uses the intersection of three specific things to find the right list: the sales area, the document pricing procedure, and the customer pricing procedure.
I really like the analogy used in the source notes for this. Who, what, and where.
It's the best way to remember it. Where is the sales area? So the sales org, the distribution channel, the division. Who is the customer pricing procedure? Is this a wholesale customer or a retail customer?
And what is the context?
Right, the document pricing procedure. Is this a standard order or is it a free of charge order?
So let's play this scenario out. If I'm a wholesale customer, which is the who placing a standard order, which is the what in the U.S. sales org, which is the where I get the standard wholesale pricing procedure.
Correct. And that specific wholesale procedure might include buckets for bulk volume discounts or special distributor rebates that a standard retail customer would never ever even see on their screen.
And what if the pricing tab on the order just comes up empty, like blank?
Then you immediately check T-code OVKK. That is the grand mapping table for pricing. Usually what happens is someone created a new sales area. Maybe the company just expanded into Canada and they completely forgot to assign a pricing procedure to that new Canadian sales area.
It's like buying a beautiful new lamp and forgetting to plug it into the wall.
Exactly. The complex logic is all built, but the final connection is just missing.
Okay, so we have calculated the price. We know what to charge. But now we need to actually tell the finance team about it. We need revenue account determination.
This is the critical handshake between sales and finance. When you post a billing document, you generate a number. Let's say it's $100 in revenue. That $100 needs to go into a very specific bucket in the general ledger.
A GL account.
Yes, the GL. You don't just throw all the company's money into one giant bucket called the bank. You have to classify it carefully. Is it product revenue? Is it service revenue? Is it freight revenue? Or maybe it's surcharges.
The mechanism here is called the condition technique using T-code VKOA. What are the key criteria it uses?
It looks at the chart of accounts first, then the sales org, and then it uses two very important sorting hats called account assignment groups. There's one for the customer and one for the material.
Explain those assignment groups a bit more.
Well, for the customer, the account assignment group helps distinguish things like domestic versus foreign revenue. The finance department usually wants to report those two streams separately on their balance sheets.
Right, of course.
And for the material, the group distinguishes things like trading goods versus services. You definitely want to see exactly how much money you made selling physical widgets versus how much you made fixing them with service hours. The account assignment group directs the money to the correct specific GL account.
So if I sell a widget, which is a trading good, to a customer in France, which is foreign good, the VKOA table directs that specific revenue to the foreign product sales account.
Precisely. And if you get this configuration wrong, your CFO will literally be knocking on your door because their financial statements are a mess. The revenue will be sitting in some unallocated suspense account somewhere instead of properly on the P&L.
Nobody wants the CFO knocking on their door. That is a bad day. Let's talk about another massive financial liability. Tax determination.
Taxes. Possibly the most complex part of doing global business. But SAP logic simplifies it beautifully. The basic logic compares the departure country, which is the plant, and the destination country, which is the ship to.
Okay, straightforward so far.
If country A equals country A, like a plant in Texas and a customer in New York, it's domestic tax. If country A is different from country B, plant in Texas, customer in London, It's an export tax scenario.
Simple enough on the surface, but what about all the complex tax exemptions? Not every single customer or product pays tax.
That's where the tax matrix comes in. The system looks at the tax classification of the customer and compares it to the tax classification of the material. It's usually represented by a simple number, 0 or 1. 0 means exempt and 1 means liable.
So if I'm a nonprofit organization, which makes me an exempt customer, buying a standard laptop, which is a liable material.
The intersection of exempt customer and liable material results in 0 tax. No tax. The system checks both sides of the equation.
But if I am a regular corporate business, which is liable, buying that exact same laptop.
Then the intersection is liable, and you get hit with the full tax rate.
And what if I'm a regular liable business buying a tax-exempt service, like maybe certain types of consulting?
Then the customer is liable, but the material is exempt. And the final result is, again, no tax. It requires both sides to be liable for the tax condition to actually trigger.
Got it. It's a strict logic gate. Okay, let's move into the details section. Master data and output. We mentioned earlier that the golden rule is to avoid manual entry at all costs. Partner determination seems like a huge part of that.
That was huge. In a complex B2B business transaction, there isn't just one single entity called the customer. There is usually a whole cast of characters involved.
Right.
There is the sold to party who actually placed the order, the ship to party where the goods physically go,
Yeah.
the bill to party who receives the invoice, and the payer who actually writes the check. These could literally be 4 entirely different corporate entities.
Really? 4 different ones. Can you give an example of how that works in practice?
Sure. Think of a massive franchise operation. You, as the sold to, place an order for your local specific store, which is the ship to. But the invoice goes to your regional headquarters, which is the bill to, and the actual payment comes from a central corporate bank account halfway across the country, which is the payer.
Wow. And the partner determination logic just automatically pulls all these related partners in the second I type the sold to number?
Yes. If you have the relationship set up correctly in the customer master, you type the sold to ID, and the system magically populates the other 3 automatically. And in the configuration, the T code is VOPAN, by the way. You can decide which ones are mandatory.
So you can say, for example, you absolutely cannot save an order without a sold to and a ship to.
Exactly. But maybe a sales employee partner is optional.
And the notes also mention something called not modifiable partners.
That means the end user physically cannot change the value. For example, you might say the payer is not modifiable. You really don't want a junior sales rep accidentally changing the payer on a $1 million order to some random entity that has absolutely no credit line.
You lock it down. Smart security. What about text determination?
This is a huge quality of life feature for the users. Imagine having to manually type out the exact same standard terms and conditions or deliver to rear dock instructions or fragile handle with care on every single order you process all day long.
It would be incredibly tedious and so prone to typos.
Exactly. Text determination pulls these standard blocks of text from the customer master or the material master automatically into the document.
It uses something called an access sequence, right?
Yes. It essentially searches. It asks, is there shipping instruction text on the customer? No. Okay, is there text on the material? Yes. Okay, copy that exact text into the order. It cascades down the defined list until it finds the text it needs.
And finally, in this section, output determination. This is how the customer actually hears from us, right?
Correct. Output is the outbound communication. It is the order confirmation, the delivery note, the final invoice. It could be a printed piece of paper from a warehouse printer, an email, a PDF attachment, or even an EDI message sent computer to computer.
And the mechanism for this is the condition technique again. T-code ENTS.
NA is basically the master dashboard for all outputs. But the key tip from the source material here is this. You absolutely have to maintain the condition records.
Yeah.
And you do that in T-code VV11.
Why is that called out as a specific tip?
Because I have seen so many people configure the back-end logic perfectly. The access sequence is beautiful, the output type is defined flawlessly, but then they forget to create the actual front-end record that says, for customer X, send an email.
And without that record?
Without that record, the system stays completely silent. It's like buying a brand new smartphone, but not adding any context to it. It works perfectly, but it doesn't know who to call.
Silence is definitely not golden in sales. Okay, we have built a really solid foundation today. Now, with the time we have left, I want to look at the consultant's toolkit. These are the advanced determinations. They're really cool tricks.
These are the tools that genuinely make you look like a hero to your client. First up is material determination. This is basically substitution logic.
Like if we don't sell the iPhone 12 anymore, here's the iPhone 13.
Exactly that. You can configure the system so that if a user types in the old discontinued material number, the system automatically swaps it out for the new active one.
Does it tell the user it did that? Or is it sneaky?
It entirely depends on the reason code you configure. Reason 0004 is automatic. It just swaps it instantly without asking. Reason 0006 is manual. It pops up a dialog box and lets the user choose.
Yeah.
It asks, do you want to substitute the new model?
I can see that being incredibly useful for promotional packaging too. Like during the holidays, you want to swap the standard plain box for the festive holiday box.
That is a perfect use case.
Yeah.
The user just orders the standard item number they always do, but the warehouse automatically gets the instruction to pick the holiday box version. You don't have to retrain your entire sales team on a bunch of temporary new part numbers.
That is so slick. Okay, next advanced tool, listing and exclusion. This sounds a bit like a bouncer at a nightclub.
It is exactly like a bouncer. Listing is essentially a whitelist. If you create a listing record for a specific customer, they can only buy the exact items on that list. Nothing else is allowed through the door.
Wow, that's very strict. When would a business actually use that?
Usually for specialized distributors. So you have a distributor who is only legally licensed to sell your highly regulated medical-grade products, but they're not allowed to sell your general consumer products. Or maybe a regional franchisee who can only sell specific approved brands. If they try to order something off-list, the system hard blocks it.
And exclusion is the opposite.
The blacklist. They can buy absolutely anything in your catalog except these specific excluded items. You might use this because of export restrictions, like you legally can't sell this high-tech microchip to this specific country, or maybe you exclude a competitor's proprietary product.
And finally, in the toolkit, everyone's favorite retail promotion, free goods.
Yes. Buy 10, get 1 free. The system can actually handle this completely automatically. There are 2 distinct flavors, though, inclusive and exclusive.
What exactly is the difference between the two?
Inclusive means the free item is included in the total order quantity. So you order 10, you pay for 9, and the 10th one is free. The total quantity physically shipped to you is still exactly 10. You're just discounting one of them to a value of 0.
Okay, that makes sense.
Exclusive means the free item is strictly in addition to the order quantity. So you order 10, you pay for all 10, and we throw in an extra 11th one for free. Total quantity shipped is 11.
That is a subtle but incredibly important difference, especially for warehouse inventory.
It is a huge difference. And financially speaking, it actually uses that item category usage we talked about earlier, the FRE usage, to make absolutely sure the price of that extra item is 0. It all beautifully ties back together.
It really does all connect. Okay, we have about 10 minutes left on the clock. I want to dedicate this final segment entirely to the consultant's troubleshooting methodology. Because let's be honest here, you configure all this stuff, you build the logic, you go to test it, and it just doesn't work.
It never works the first time.
Right. The shipping point is totally blank. The price is coming up as 0. The plant is completely wrong. What do you actually do when you are staring at the screen?
Well, panic is not an option. We follow a very rigorous 4-step process.
Let's hear step 1.
Step 1 is always check the master data. I really cannot stress this enough to new consultants. 90% of determination issues are not broken configuration at all. They are simply missing master data.
Give us a concrete example of that.
Okay, say the shipping point isn't determining on your order. You immediately go check your complex configuration in OVL2 and it looks completely perfect. But then you go look at the material master for that one specific item you are testing and you realize the loading group field is completely empty. If the loading group is blank, the formula, which is condition plus loading group plus plant, returns absolutely nothing. The math just fails.
Because you can't add a blank to a formula, so always check the inputs before you blame the calculator.
Exactly. Check your CMIRs. Check your customer master. Check your material master. 9 times out of 10, the answer is hiding right there.
What is step 2?
Step 2, check the scope of analysis. SAP actually tells you exactly what it's thinking if you just know where to look. In the pricing screen, for example, there is a little analysis button. In the output screen, there is a processing log.
So literally just click the button. It will tell you I was looking for condition X, but I didn't find it.
Exactly. It shows you the entire trace, step by step. It says access 1 not found, access 2 not found, access 3 found. It's essentially a detective's notebook right on the screen. It completely removes the guesswork.
That is huge. Step 3.
Step 3 is trace the hierarchy. This goes all the way back to our priority rules we discussed at the beginning. If the plant is determining incorrectly, Don't just sit there staring at the customer master trying to figure out why.
Remember the waterfall?
Yes, remember the waterfall. CMIR comes first. Did someone put a weird record in the CMIR 5 years ago that is secretly messing up your order today?
The ghost in the machine strikes again.
Always check the higher priority sources first. The system is inherently lazy. It just takes the very first answer it finds and stops looking.
And the final step, step 4.
Step 4 is verify assignments. This is the plug it in step. You might have defined the most beautiful complex pricing procedure in the world. You built it perfectly in the system. But did you remember to go to T-code OVKK and actually assign it to the sales area?
Configuration that isn't assigned is like a lamp that isn't plugged in.
Exactly. It won't turn on no matter how many times you flick the switch.
That is such a common pitfall. You build all the brilliant logic but completely forget to activate the final link.
It happens to the absolute best of us.
Well, this has been an absolute download of information today. I feel like my brain has literally expanded over the last hour. Before we wrap up completely, let's do a rapid-fire cheat sheet summary. Just for the consultants listening who want to desperately jot this down, I will say the determination name, and you give me the T-code and the key variables.
All right, let's do it.
Shipping point.
T-code OVL2. Key variables are shipping condition plus loading group plus plant.
Item category.
T-code VOV4. Key variables are dock type plus item category group plus usage.
Pricing procedure.
T-code OVKK. Key variables are sales area plus customer pricing procedure plus document pricing
The
procedure.
revenue account.
T-code VKOA. Key variables are the account assignment groups for both the customer and the material.
X determination.
T-code VOTXN. Key variable there is the access sequence.
You are an absolute machine.
I've just spent way too much time staring at these specific screens over the years.
So as we close out, what does this all actually mean? We've talked a lot about complex formulas and obscure T-codes today, but what is the underlying philosophy here?
The underlying philosophy is that determinations are really about mastery of logic. It's about being able to completely predict the system's behavior before you even hit enter. A truly good consultant doesn't guess what will happen. They know.
They know the rules.
They know that if they tweak this one specific field in the material master, that specific result will definitively happen in the GL account downstream. It's a massive web of cause and effect.
It's like seeing the invisible strings connecting everything.
Exactly. When you finally master determinations, you stop fighting against the system and you start actually conducting it.
I want to leave our listeners today with a provocative thought directly from the source material. Imagine this high-stakes scenario. You are in UAT, user acceptance testing. The huge multi-million-dollar project is almost live.
High pressure.
Very high pressure. The key users are watching. The executives are standing right behind you watching. You create a test order, and the shipping point fails. It's just blank. A bright red error message pops up on the projector screen.
The entire room just goes quiet.
The room goes dead quiet. That specific moment is the ultimate test of your invisible engine. The system is only as smart as the rules you configured into it. True automation requires absolute precision. It's a stark reminder that while the software is incredibly powerful, the human architect behind the keyboard is still the most critical variable in the entire equation.
Incredibly well said. The machine happily runs the logic, but you have to write the rules.
Thank you so much for this masterclass today. To our listeners out there, go check your CMIR validity dates, verify your pricing assignments, and we will definitely see you on the next deep dive.
Happy configuring, everyone.